Thanks, everyone. Welcome to the Captain Avalanche Fancast, your unofficial source for all things Colorado Avalanche hockey and more from a fan perspective. Hosted by me, Captain Avalanche Corey, and Western Conference powerhouse, Dom. Now, we're no insiders. We're not inside the locker room face-to-face with our favorite players, but we hope to create a relatable and welcoming environment because we're just like all of you listening. Fans with a deep passion for the game of hockey, and in this case, the Colorado Avalanche. Yo, we heard you like power rankings, so we put power rankings inside of today's episode. That's right. Dom has once again spearheaded the difficult endeavor of trying to rank all 32 NHL clubs with super helpful input from me. On top of that, our teams continue to play hockey games to varying degrees of success. How likely are the Avalanche to hold their position at the top of the Central? Is help coming anytime soon? Macklin Celebrity is how many points ahead of his next closest teammate, Will Smith? Also, happy St. Patrick's Day. All of that and more on this week's episode of the Captain Avalanche Fancast. Dom, I am armed with a new notebook finally. I'm not using sticky notes like I have been the last few weeks. So this is a revelation. I can actually write things in a notebook.
Oh, that's awesome. And then you'll have them all in one place to look back on.
None of you got to see this, but prior to recording, I told Dom, I'm going to send you a picture of my floor. You may think that odd, but my floor is currently covered in different hockey card base sets. Now, these aren't cards that I bought. I just want to point that out. These are cards that I have had donated to me. And so most of them are just base set cards. So I'm making base sets, probably going to make complete sets for myself and then sell off whatever I don't need. So if you're looking for base set cards, if you're a master set collector, I got you hooked up. Also, welcome to our 23rd Spotify follower. We love you. I don't know who you are, but I like you a lot. So hopefully you're back this week and know that we appreciate you. And if you haven't hit that follow on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you listen to this show, it would mean a lot to us if you did. It helps us grow. It helps more people hear the goofy shit that we have to say. And we have a lot of goofy shit to say this week. So obviously everybody wants to hear that. So if you can share us around, let people know that you enjoy what we're doing here if you are. And I figure if you keep coming back at this point, that we're knee deep into season 2, I would hope that you tell somebody else. So please definitely spread the word around. We really appreciate it. Now then, into the main event of today's episode, and that is a St. Patty's Day power rankings. I was gonna do an accent, but I don't know about that. Obviously, today is not St. Patrick's Day, but we figured, close enough. Plus, you heard the Irish jig of the intro music, so we'll just all pretend today is St. Patrick's Day again. Of course, this episode would have come out even closer to the day in question, but I, Captain Avalanche Corey, had to delay the normal recording of this episode because I attended the Avalanche and Stars game on Wednesday. In case you're wondering, we do record these in the evenings, but if you want us to have the ability to record these during the day, just like I said, make sure to follow us everywhere! But also make sure to let us know how you're feeling about the Avs right now. Are you in panic? Are you still smooth sailing somewhere in the middle? Let us know. But let's see how these incredibly handsome and intelligent hockey podcasts, or in these incredibly intelligent, handsome podcasts, let's see how, in our dumbass opinion, how the Avs stack up against the rest of the league. Dom, lead us in.
I can be thing 1, thing 2, thing dumb, thing dumber. I don't know. I'm having a grand time. Glad to be recording with you, even if it's a day later. I actually was able to watch an Avalanche game for once because it was on TNT instead of fucking Altitude.
That must be why we lost. Dom finally watched.
Well, when I'm there with you, they're goated. They never lose. But apparently, if I watch from home,
yes, very different.
I don't know if we have enough of a sample size for the latter, but. Anyways, we got plenty to talk about. We got power rankings, which I'm sure all of you listening will have your own opinions about, which means it is the perfect opportunity to drop a comment and tell me just how stupid I am. I love hearing that because, I don't know, it motivates me. I like a challenge. I like proving people wrong. So, tell me I'm awful and I'll do better next time. But enough of that.
Let me just say, I realized I didn't say it right. I went St. Patty's Day power rankings. I didn't say it like how I normally say it, which is St. Patty's Day power rankings. I gotta add some more flair. I'd be a great like wrestling announcer or something. But go ahead and carry on, Dom. Thank you.
You would. I'm not. I'm just over here being a bit of a gremlin. So I actually call these the Lucky Leprechaun Power Rankings in the hopes that we can get some luck of the Irish for our teams as we look ahead to the playoffs or just around the corner. But into the power rankings themselves, we're going to start at 32 and work our way up to 1 because I feel like that's the right way to do things. Probably. And I think most people would agree. So those of you at home, here is a 1-second break to guess who's at number 32. And those of you who guessed the Vancouver Canucks, you would obviously be correct because they are still over 10 points behind 31st place, which is the Calgary Flames, both in the NHL and in these power rankings. I don't think there's any explanation needed for Vancouver. And I think Calgary's fans are probably pretty sad to lose some of their best players before or at the deadline.
God bless the Vancouver Canucks, who are basically fielding an AHL team at this point. I'm sure Brock Besser is super happy that he decided to re-sign there. And the sad part is they probably won't even land the first overall pick. I don't think they've ever picked first overall is what, if I remember correctly, is something that they've said. But yeah, no good.
Yeah, it's not good. I mean, and that's what's still crazy. I'm pretty sure it still holds true. I think I said it last time, but Calgary is closer to a playoff than they are to Vancouver right now. They are 11 points ahead of Vancouver, and they are 10 points out of a playoff spot. It's dumb. It's dumb how bad Vancouver is. I'm so sorry, Vancouver fans.
That's some Scalabrini shit. I'm closer to LeBron than you are to me. I'm closer to playoffs than you are to me. You know what? Let's sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I also have the Sharks game on right now, playing Buffalo at home, and Buffalo just scored. So I'm a little wincing from that. But what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say let's trade off like 32, 31, 30. Yeah, so I got 31 here, which is the lovely Calgary Flames, who I am rooting to get the first overall pick because, you know, you may think that they're sad about Uyghur and Kadri. I've heard quite the opposite, in that that's what they want, because the Calgary Flames have an absolutely insane amount of draft picks in this next year's draft from top to bottom. And as we've discussed many times, this year's draft class is fucking loaded. So this team's going to be electric in like a few years here once these draft prospects develop. And they're still winning the occasional game. So, I mean, it's not all bad. I think they're pretty happy with the tank. That was definitely not towards the Calgary Flames.
No, I'm not happy with the situation in the tank right now because Buffalo just scored again 30 seconds later. Ooh. No bueno.
Yeah, no bueno indeed.
Yeah, sorry, everyone. I am doing double duty because, again, since we were originally going to record on Wednesday, honestly, it worked out better for me for recording on doing this on a Thursday night. So you will get this on a Friday. But the Sharks actually had a great first period and now just gave up 2 quick goals in the middle of the second. Anyway, though, we have power rankings, so I'm going to keep us moving along unless you had anything else you wanted to say for the Calgary Flames, Corey.
Nope, let's roll.
I think you're right, though, about the draft picks. I got to say that. This is a top-tier draft class, and I can't wait to talk about all those prospects. But at number 30, I do have the Chicago Blackhawks, and my analysis was simple, and I think, Corey, you might be able to help me out here, but Chicago has Connor Bedard, Spencer Knight, and who else?
Andre Burakovsky. That's who they have. Former Avalanche legend. No, I mean, oh God, their roster is not coming to me off the top of my head here. Hold, please.
Exactly.
I know
exactly.
But no, they have a couple other like good, like Frankie Nazar. He's good. People like Frankie. Oh, yeah. They have Lev Shinov. He's like the next coming of their good defense. So, I mean, they got good ones in there.
Well, sure. They also have Bertuzzi, Teravainen. Donato will pop off, like you were saying there. I mean, yeah, they have Vlasic is going to be potentially a good defenseman, but none of it's working. They're not winning very often. They are going to be good in a couple of years. They're going to be the team that makes the Sharks compete for a playoff spot in the West, compete to win the West, right, in a few years' time. But they look a little bit behind as far as their rebuild is concerned, and it's not a race, but being competitive and wanting the Sharks to succeed and looking at what Celebrini's doing, I'm going to make it a race anyway.
Fair enough. And so far, you guys are dramatically winning that race, although it was interesting at the beginning of the season when they were like looking really close to that playoff spot. So that kind of stinks for them, I guess, that it ended up falling off in that regard.
Yeah, and you know what else stinks? Buffalo just scored goal number 3.
Oh my gosh, guys, what are we doing? No,
this is bad, man. This is bad. I mean, Dahlin scored right in front, but we just suddenly forgot how to play defense and are just shelling, just like leaving Nedeljkovic out to dry right now. Oh my God. Anyway, you can keep it rolling. I'm just going to sit here in my pain for a moment.
Actually, no, Dom, because at number 29, we have the New York Rangers, and I want you to read exactly what you wrote, and then I want to follow that up with what I wrote.
All right. Well, here's what I wrote. Because originally...
I realized I didn't see the last part. I just saw the 4 straight part of it, and then that was the first thought of the bottom. But go ahead.
Well, so for everyone listening, I had built out these power rankings going back almost a week ago now, and I've been updating them day by day so that we could keep making updates.
Yeah, don't read the last part. Don't read the last part. Don't read this. Just up to your quote here.
Okay. Well, I'll just say this. The Rangers, I think, were like, I don't know, 6 spots higher in my power rankings when I first made them, because this team won 4 straight. And I was thinking, wow, what a difference Igor Shesterkin makes. But Corey, what were you going to say?
But man, are they still fucking...
Yeah. After those 4 straight wins, they lost 3 straight and reminded me why they suck and why I've been saying that there will at least be one losing team in the East next year. Foolish of me to think anything different.
I don't know why I thought I bought into them bouncing back this year. I don't know why I did. And they're not going to bounce back next year either unless they do anything. But Chris Drury is a fucking dork. Anyway, Dom, who do we have at number 28?
Another team that I had higher up earlier in the week, the Western Conference trap game team that I think comes to mind is the St. Louis Blues. They surged a bit, but have fallen back to earth somewhat.
And I mean, I agree with some of the thought process by some people, including the legendary meme artist himself, Binner Memes, that this team, they're not going anywhere right now. They have a lot of great pieces in place that I think they can still build a core around. And I think it would be foolish of them to maybe be so ready to throw them away. I think they should hold on to them because they're still young and have a lot of upside, especially guys like Robert Thomas. But right now, you need to give up on the playoffs. Just embrace the tank and get a good draft pick. Stop trying to fucking win.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I had the St. Louis Blues. I think I had them possibly in the top 20, definitely in the top 24, right? So they were not in the bottom 25% of the league in the rankings because they were winning games. They were being annoying. They beat the Sharks. They were just rattled off a few straight. And I was like, cool, this team has less points than everybody, but they've won a bunch against good teams. So they're pushing and could still technically make the playoffs, but you know. They just like the Rangers reminded me that they have no business being in the playoff conversation this year.
Yeah, there are so many other teams that I'd rather see do it at this point, and the Blues are kind of out of everybody's central memory at this point. So, whose turn was it? Wait, Dom, me.
I think it's your turn.
It's me at number 27. We have the Toronto Maple Leafs. Dom, what's wrong with the Toronto Maple Leafs?
What's right with the Toronto Maple Leafs?
That is the better question.
The fans want to tank. Matthews takes a hit, and then suddenly the team wins again? Like, they didn't win since the break. And then who was the first team they beat after going like a full month without winning a game?
No idea.
Who was it?
I'd have to guess it was probably Vancouver. I bet that'd be pretty funny.
Oh, it was Anaheim.
Oh, yes,
it was Anaheim.
That's right. Was it Anaheim the first one? Maybe?
It was Anaheim on March 12th.
Yeah, I'm seeing that.
First wins between February 3rd and March 12th. They lost every game in between there, and then somehow beat Anaheim, and then 2 games later win on the road at Minnesota. It make sense.
Yeah, I can't. And it's so funny because, I mean, look at Nick Waugh, who I think had scored 5 goals up to that point with Toronto, with spending over half the season with them. And then in the Avs, he scored 2 goals in like his first 3 games. So I think, I don't necessarily want to blame it on Craig Berube. I mean, he's a fucking Stanley Cup winning coach. He's a great coach, obviously, but I don't know if he's the right coach. I don't know if anybody's the right coach, though. And you know what? This is just coming to me now. I think Toronto is getting Buffalo Sabre syndrome, where they keep getting a constant update and coach every fucking other year. It's like, why can't this team succeed? I don't know. Maybe because they can never get adjusted or acclimated to any one system because you keep firing and bringing in new coaches all the fucking time. The Sabres at least have been able to come together, 1, because they got rid of fucking Kevin Adams, and 2, because they brought back Lindy Ruff, and they've had him for 2 years already. So 1, it's a system that the team is already vaguely familiar with, and now they've actually been able to ingratiate themselves in it. So goddamn. But, not that I'm saying...
That's a good point about the continuity.
Yeah, not that I'm saying keep around... Not that I'm saying keep around a bad coach, but it just might pay off more if you find one coach, at least keep him a little bit, and then after a few years, if it's shit, fuck him, fire him. But, like, God, I don't know.
Well, and I think you had your comment here. If I'd love to hear you say that, but before you do, it is so funny to me. This is the same Sabres roster for like 90% of it put together by Kevin Adams. So he knew how to get the pieces. He just then had to get out the fucking way, and then they suddenly won. That's kind of fucking hilarious to me.
It's, I think, honestly, somewhat similar to like Steve Yzerman in Florida. Before handing it off to Jillian Brisebois, literally, like, I think the same situation, because like Andrei Vasilevsky was a Steve Yzerman draft pick. Steve Yzerman pretty much put in all the pieces into place for them to go on those like deep cup runs and those record-setting regular seasons. That was all Stevie Y. But then obviously Jillian Brisebois, got the credit because he was the guy sitting behind the desk when they won, when really it was Stevie Y who put it all into place. So just kind of funny how it can work out that way.
Yeah, and maybe it's just, the ability to spot talent, but players don't have that same inspiration to want to play for a guy. Maybe there's personality things that we don't know about behind the scenes. I always wonder. But we've got a long way to go in these. So I want to see your comment because it leads me into one last thing I want to say.
Okay, yeah.
And then we'll keep moving along.
I know what you're talking about. And it's that I love that Matthews takes a hit and suddenly people are like, that's it. He wants out of Toronto. Why are people trying so hard to get the top goal scorer of this generation out of Toronto?
I don't know. I really don't know. Toronto has just always been hard on Matthews, harder since the Olympics. But you know what? Sure, please get him out of Toronto and put him in San Jose. We will happily take him. He can be our second line center. Hell, he doesn't even need to play center. He can play on a wing. He can play wherever he wants to. We are rebuilding. We have so much flexibility. Yes, we are acquiring pieces. Yes, we have young assets, but we will happily build around him and Macklin. That sounds like a great idea to me. So I really hope it happens. I really, really, really hope it happens because we would go from rebuild contender in a couple of years to watch out next season because we're going to be in the thick of it.
So long as he doesn't ask for the captaincy. But
I don't think he would.
Fair enough. Wait, Dom. Okay, it's Dom. I keep getting mixed up.
Even numbers I'll do, odd numbers are yours.
Okay, I got it. Yeah.
Okay. At 26, I've got the Nashville Predators here. I dropped them behind some, I guess I called them more deserving teams. I don't know if they're actually more deserving. Nashville is, with a win today, technically jumping ahead of the Sharks by a point. Yeah, you heard that right. Nashville is tied on points for what is the playoff line. Unbelievable, because this team is playing better after the trade deadline, but much worse than the pre-Olympic surge that really shot them up the ranks into consideration before they had that massive drop-off, and then they sold some pieces. I can't get a read on this team, man. Anytime I think they're good, they just play like absolute shit. And then if I think they're bad, then they go and win after I've set the power rankings and make my rank of 26 look a little foolish.
I don't think so. I genuinely do not see these guys going anywhere with where they are at right now. Just like I said, they're too old. They're too slow. They need a draft and get younger. Fuck the playoffs.
Agreed.
Now then, at number 25, we have the Florida Panthers. What do you think, Dom?
Fun fact, they are last place in their division.
And I mean, that's a stacked division at that.
It is, but they still wouldn't even be in a playoff spot in the West. All this talk of, oh, this team plays in the East, but they'd be in a playoff spot in the West. Your defending Cup champions would not even be in a playoff spot in the West, which is ass, and everybody competing in the Pacific for who wants a playoff spot less. Florida would still be winning that and be unable to qualify for the playoffs. They did win a couple. I say it's too little, too late. I think we all agree that. But the big question is, will Florida and Edmonton both miss the playoffs?
There is a good possibility here. I know we're not quite to Edmonton just yet, but there's a good chance. And I mean, I could argue that these guys should be lower. I don't know if you lowered them since I made that comment, but they're just not scary right now. And it's like, oh, we're getting Barkey back. Yeah. Okay, bro, whatever. They can lose to anyone and they can't really beat anybody. Or they can beat no one, is what I said. They can lose to anyone and they can beat no one. This team just doesn't have the same fierceness that it's had in years past, where it's like you don't want to play the Florida Panthers and their relentless forecheck. It's like, what fucking forecheck? This is nothing.
Yeah, I think they've been humbled. With all of the injuries, they've come back to earth. They don't seem aggressive. They're not hitting with reckless abandon on their forecheck. They look a little cautious, playing with a little bit of concern, and just, I think, honestly, just trying to survive to the offseason, heal up, and try again next year. But, you know, I don't think Bobrovsky, maybe he signs another 1-year contract with him, but I think he's going to be playing somewhere else. So this might mark the end, actually, to the Florida Cup window, potentially.
It could. I mean, I can definitely see them making a resurgence next year and coming back strong. But man, there are a lot of contenders in this Atlantic division. So I'm going to be watching it with great curiosity, I think, next year to kind of see what unfolds, because I can see this team making the comeback necessary to really push through. And, be the Florida Panthers team that we've come to expect, but also maybe falling by the wayside and not really coming out of this funk that they're in. So I don't know. I can frankly see it going either way.
How did that puck not go in? Oh my God.
I wish I could tell you, Dom, but I have no good answer for you.
Yeah, I cannot explain how that puck didn't go in the net there for the Sharks. Anyways, I think you made a good assessment there of Florida. It really could go either way. The East is such a gauntlet, but it's hard because their roster is aging a bit because they did try to keep their core together,
and they did.
They've done a good job finding different accent pieces each year and finding their right guys who play their style. I'll respect it and give them that, but you still eventually time comes for us all. So we'll have to wait and see, but they're certainly out of it for this year.
Yes. Anyway, wait, no. The even numbers are you.
This is fun. At number 24, the Winnipeg Jets, who freaking flopped in Boston today and messed up my statement, but I'm going to read it as I wrote it anyway, because Hellebuck still steals games. He is still the best goaltender on the NHL on any given night if he wants to be. And I said, don't look now, but this team is NHL 500. They lost today, so that's no longer the case, but I feel like that was pretty crazy. If you asked me a week ago, a month ago, if I thought the Jets could get back to NHL 500, I probably would have said, no, this team's just waiting for the offseason. So they've surprised me a bit here down the stretch and become a trap game in their own right.
To which I responded, they aren't doing shit.
Yeah, they aren't doing shit, but stealing games off of teams, and as long as they aren't stealing games off of the Sharks, please beat up on the other Western playoff contenders. Just help us out. Be spoiler.
It was not fun for us. We'll get there. Number 23, we have the Los Angeles Frauds. I mean Kings.
Yeah, and I agree. My comment was somehow more fraudulent than Vegas. OT losses mean jack shit in the playoffs, as we've talked about. And Kopitar's swan song, I feel like it's running parallel to Ovi's. If they both miss the playoffs in their final season, it's going to be a sad way to see two legends of the last 20 years go out.
Yeah. And I mean, it is sad, but that always has to happen for somebody. Somebody is always retiring every year, and you're never guaranteed to make the playoffs. So it sucks that that's the way that it has to be for some of these guys, but that's the way that it has to be. And that's, on the fault of management for not building around them, because man, way to blow it for Kopi's final season. Their trade deadline was weird. They were selling, but then they were also buying, but they were buying really weird things. And you're just things. I'm calling people things. I'm sorry. They were buying very weird players positionally, and Ken Holland should be fired. That guy is just a weirdo.
Weirdo making weird moves. And just to clarify for any and all Sharks fans listening, I'm not upset about LA suffering. I do take joy knowing that they are outside of the playoffs right now. But we've all seen and played against Kopitar long enough to have some respect for him and know how good of a player he is. So that's that, just to clarify my statement there.
Of course. It's you. I don't know why I keep forgetting this.
I'm having fun with it. Hey, if nothing else, this is a different way than we've ever done the power rankings before, and I like it. This is a lot of fun for me. I hope you're having fun listening to us, because I'm having a lot of fun reading through this. At number 22, somehow, this is how bad the bottom teams in the league are. Somehow, the New Jersey Devils are moving up 6 spots from my last power rankings. But I cannot fathom why this team is not better considering the talent on their roster. Corey, please help me out. Like, I don't understand why this Devils team can't figure it out.
Not great goaltending. Jack Hughes is a fucking bum. Bad system, maybe, but I haven't watched them enough to really make that assessment confidently. I don't know, but being in the Metro, they should have had an easier time, but they just can't win. Ultimately, though, I think injuries hampered them a lot again this season, and it's just too late to fix it.
Yeah, well, and that seems to be the case. This isn't a Buffalo situation, but I don't know what the equivalent is in the injury realm, but that is the New Jersey Devils' problem. Is they just keep having injuries ruin season after season.
Which sucks, because boy, oh boy, do I, as an Avalanche fan, relate to that problem. But they have still managed to make the playoffs and win every year. So, it's like, I don't know what to tell you at this point. You just can't get it done. So, I don't know what the ultimate problem is, because you're right. It just feels like a team that's far too talented to be this bad, I suppose. So, I don't really have a good answer for them either, but I don't watch enough of their hockey to really say why they should or shouldn't be winning.
Yeah, that's a fair point. But the next one is yours.
Yes, I did. I did know that. At number 21, we have the. Oh, sorry, I almost vomited. We have the. I'm gonna get through this. We have the Seattle Kraken.
Boo! You stink!
Yeah, honestly, this team is playing like if you could put vomit on the ice. Shout out Wallstedt. Then that would be the Seattle Kraken.
Actually, Gustafsson who threw up.
Man, I'm sorry, Wallstedt. I really screwed that one up. That was so close to being funny, and I botched it. Welp, I guess we'll just keep going. Because the Kraken are awful. 2 of their 4 wins since the Olympic break have come against Vancouver. So they've gotten the free square. But they also somehow beat Carolina and stomped Florida, which I guess in the East, maybe Florida's the free square now. I don't know. But the Kraken remain in the thick of the playoff hunt, and it's pissing me off. Like, the Sharks are so much better than this team. So much better. It's not even close in my mind. The Kraken have 0 shot at winning a game, not a series, a single game in the playoffs against the Colorado Avalanche. This team is that bad. But, man, I'm not going to lie. The Sharks would at least give you guys a push. We might make it a 5-game series. Like, come on. This team is just frustrating.
One, that makes me... This is going to be such a niche reference, but it's an old Markiplier clip from when he played Five Nights at Freddy's, and one of the animatronics won't leave from the door, and he goes, "Go away!" He opens the door, he's still there, and that's how it feels with the Kraken, whose fans are convinced that they will beat the Avalanche in a 7-game series this year. Okay, you are free to think that. I can't change your opinion. Not that you're listening.
Yeah, sure, Jan.
Sure, Jan. But yeah. Tom, who's next?
At number 20, I have the Washington Capitals. Another one of those teams that they're playing out the string. They have a solid roster. They're going to finish out the season. They still have Ovechkin. Ovechkin, by the way, scored career goal number 999. So we are on 1,000 goal watch. That
now,
is regular season and playoffs combined. Yeah. But it's still a huge milestone. So tracking that, I look forward to hopefully in our next episode being able to drop that nugget. But so I guess it's a decent roster. Still a lot of guys from last season, but not a playoff team.
Oh man, they're solid but underwhelming. I think they have some young pieces in place to start to build around going into the future. Not necessarily superstars, but just solid guys that can make a team. But I just don't know if they have what's necessary to go very far in the playoffs. If they even make it, which is questionable at best. Yeah,
they're not making in the playoffs. They're cooked. I'm calling it right now. Mark them as missing.
Well, there you go, everyone. But next up, because we did this, I think, in the wrong order because Dom isn't getting to say it. We have your San Jose Sharks, who I'm sure have improved their play greatly against the Buffalo Sabres.
Yes, being at intermission is an improvement on the play that we were witnessing. Man, I'm going to just disregard what I said originally in my note here because this team is allergic to consistency. Win 3, lose 3. Win 2, currently lost 2, and down by 3 to Buffalo. Man, you have games in hand on literally everyone in the West. You are 1 point out of a playoff spot. You had games in hand. Hell, you could have the Oilers spot right now in the playoffs. And then you fucking flopped. Like, I'm going to talk about it in the tank briefly. I'm not going to be happy about it. This week started out really good, and then they just played awful in Ottawa, and they dropped a must-win game in Edmonton that was very winnable. So, can't be doing that. Can't be losing those 4-point games. So, still moving up in the ranks. Still, I think, deserve to be in the playoffs more than the teams they're competing with. Honestly, I think with Nedeljkovic as the starter, this team is a wild card team, at least by the West standards. But the consistency, or more accurately, the lack of consistency, is very frustrating and concerning.
Yes, the West's incredibly high playoff standards. Yeah. And I mean, even look at last year where Calgary almost snuck into a playoff spot and they were free. But I mean, it's funny that you talk about that because really that was my same analysis here, was that the games in hand is this team saving grace, but consistency is key. They need consistently, quote, good performances from every player every night. And Macklin Celebrini will have to break records to make sure he drags this team to a first round playoff berth. But to me, if anyone can do it, I think the Sharks can. But you're right. They need to be picking up wins wherever they can, which, to their defense, on this road trip, I feel like they did, and they did it against better opponents. But, you know, they're just not quite there where they can consistently compete with every team on every given night. They definitely still have a ways to go. So we got to hope that their remaining schedule is kind to them to give them the best shot here.
And that's a fair point. We did say before this road trip that it would be a gauntlet on the East, but I get it. You're back home and you're playing Buffalo, and Buffalo is a fucking wagon. But also, this is the night when you need to win. Vegas losing by 3 to Utah. The Panthers shut out the Oilers. The Predators beat the Kraken. The Jets, who are, I guess, technically in the hunt right now, lost. So, and Philadelphia is tied with LA, might be able to beat LA and LA. If there was not, like, everything is almost lining up perfect where all the Sharks had to do was win and gain points on everybody tonight, and they just are not putting themselves in a position to do that. And that's an unfortunate pattern.
It's so funny hearing you say this because you're basically just stealing my notes for the Avalanche.
No!
I mean, it's funny that we found ourselves in, I think, very similar situations, very similar feelings about our teams here. So it's interesting, and yet in two drastically different positions. So it's just interesting to me how this has all come about, I would say.
Yeah, I guess that is fair. Our teams are running in parallel, and I wish they would just be charging up the ranks and just winning game after game in parallel. That would be a lot more fun for both of us.
Wouldn't that just be great? I would love that. But anyway, Dom, who's next on our list? Because we'll have plenty of time to talk about the Sharks and the Avalanche here.
Good point. Number 18, we do have the Philadelphia Flyers, and I guess I called them St. Louis's equal in the East. I think I might need to correct that to be Winnipeg's equal in the East, or maybe Nashville. One of those. It's just a trap game and still technically in the wild card hunt. And I had probably under-ranked them last time, so they were one of our biggest positive movers of this month's power rankings, shooting up 7 spots just because they're jumping ahead of a lot of Western teams, because they are one of those Eastern teams that are actually better than most of these teams that are outside of the Western playoff.
Which is just, oh, it's so funny that it's a point that's, I think, brought up consistently, just how bad the West is, that the bottom of the East is usually better than any, like, even the middle of the West. Just, my God, what are we doing here? But what did I, where, there it is. But to me, if I had to pick a team to fall out of the hunt, at least in the East, it's these guys. I think, again, consistency is the name of the game here. And I mean, to me, the Flyers are just not consistently getting enough regulation wins, especially to actually make the push necessary, especially here in the stretch run to make the playoffs. I think other teams in the East, like a Columbus, has a better chance than they do.
Oh, yeah. Columbus has a better chance. They are playing their best hockey at the right time, currently on a 3-game win streak. They also have 7 more points and just 1 more game played. So yeah, they actually have the points to justify it as well.
But I mean, to Philadelphia's credit, I think they're inching closer and closer every year, but there's not quite there yet. And my God, they need to use Matvei Michkov to do Matvei Michkov things. And every coach keeps fucking him over, and it's sad.
Yeah, the inability to play him is surprising with his talent. I think with players like that, certain players, I get it. This is a team sport. We want to work with systems, but some players that just have that talent, you need to learn how to work and build around that talent rather than trying to force them to adapt to a system that's just not that doesn't take advantage of their God-given talents.
Exactly. I mean, this is like the best offensive guy that you've had in forever, and you just want to fucking shove him in a box. I don't get it. But I love this. At number 17, we have the Edmonton Oilers. Dom, care to share what you have written here?
I'm free. I can't sing, but I'm free falling. Because the Oilers are collapsing so hard that 2 teams out of San Jose, LA, and Seattle may qualify, and even watch out for Nashville now, apparently, just based on card 2 race in the West. Oh my God. But then, of course, they go and win a couple games in a row. And so instead of being behind the Sharks and the Kraken where they originally were on the rankings, I did have to move them back up to 17 here just because Edmonton, why do you do this to us? Why can't you just go away?
How the fuck do they have 77 points? I thought they were way further behind than they were.
Huh?
They were like 4 days ago.
What the fuck? I didn't think they had strung that many wins together. What is happening? How are they in second? That makes no sense.
They played 2 more games than Vegas.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. That would definitely help. So, I mean, yeah, they're still very much in trouble here. And I mean,
they are.
I don't know. And I mean, losing Draisaitl for the rest of the year does not help their case one bit. And I mean, to me, this is not a deep team with subpar goaltending. I know that's rich coming from me, the team who they just beat, but there's a lot of reasons that the Avalanche lost to Edmonton, and it is not because Edmonton has the deeper team. I can tell you that much. And I mean, if they make the playoffs, to me, it just proves how bad the Pacific really is. I do not want them in. And it would honestly be funny to me if they miss the playoffs along with the Panthers. Then you get a completely new Stanley Cup final matchup, and that would honestly make me happy.
Yeah, I'd be happy about that. I think it would be unique, odd if both of those teams miss the playoffs. I'm not 100% certain if it's happened before. I know you and I were talking about this, Corey. I did not get back around to double checking that online with the research to see if that has ever happened before. So how about those of you listening at home? Feel free to hop in the comments and let us know if it has ever happened that both teams from the Stanley Cup final the year prior missed the playoffs the following year, and then tell us if it's ever happened that they made consecutive finals against each other before both missing the playoffs, because I feel like that's even more rare and probably has not happened.
That one definitely has not happened. Like, first of all, the likelihood of two teams making consecutive finals against each other, and then, one not making the play, or them both not making the playoffs after facing each other in the finals 2 times. That's just way too niche and specific for that to have ever happened before. But who knows? League's been around for over 100 years, so maybe.
Yeah, prove us wrong. But again, this team is bad. They have 77 points in 70 games. But nobody seems to string together enough wins to catch them. Literally everyone in the Pacific, everyone in the Western wildcard race has games in hand on the Oilers, and they still have a 6-point buffer to the wildcard spot that they're truly competing with. It's so unfortunate.
Oh gosh, time keeps ticking by. Dom, let's speed round these next few ones. We got the notes necessary. Let's do it.
All right, speed round 16. The Vegas Golden Frauds, because they are fraudulent and they are OT loss merchants, but seem to find another gear in the playoffs. So I don't know. Put them right at the middle.
Fuck you, Rico. To be honest, though, I don't think there'll be another gear. I think this team is cooked and goaltending is questionable at best and is finally not outperforming expectations. At number 15, we have the Ottawa Senators.
Now, this is one team that I actually think it would be interesting to see them in the West, because they're building some momentum at the right time. But I just don't. I don't know. I don't know if it'll work. They're still a little bit of a ways behind without games in hand in the East.
But will it be enough time? Still dropping games they need to win.
At 14, it is the Anaheim Ducks. Anaheim
we can
or
talk
Vegas
about this
will win
one a little bit more.
Yeah. And Anaheim or Vegas will win the Pacific, but it's anyone's guess because the Ducks can't seem to pull further ahead. Oh my fucking God. Thompson, why'd you do that to me? It's now 4-0. I'm going to stop looking at the game.
Oh,
also,
no!
Yeah, so I'm just going to focus on something else I hate even more. Fuck Ratko Gudas. Go to fucking hell, away from my TV screen, away from my division, away from the kneecaps of any player that I've liked ever. And Anaheim, I implore you, as a rival in the division, please make Granlund captain immediately.
It's just, man, it's sad because it's like, really, that's what you need to resort to in defense. You need to stick out your knee to take somebody else out. Like, dude, it's a goal. Get over it. It's going to happen. You don't need to ruin someone's career because of it. And now Ratko Gudas, and yes, we are saying Rat-Co. Gudas is public enemy number 1. But I can't lie when I say I am rooting for the Ducks to win the Pacific over the Knights, but every team in this division minus the Sharks are mass fucking frauds. It's just, and I don't think we really have time to get into it today. We can definitely have a conversation in the future, but and everybody else has been talking about it as well, that really this Ratko Gudas shit highlights a bigger issue in player safety. And I haven't read the article from The Athletic yet, but the GM and owners meeting, or the GM's meeting happened where, Gary Bettman's there. And of course he was a twat the entire time from what I can tell. But it seems like player safety was a big highlight at this meeting. So I am interested to give it a read and see, I think, what was said. Because, Gary Bettman is stuck in his ways. He doesn't ever want to change anything. He thinks everything is perfect and working exactly the way it's supposed to. So that includes player safety. So until that motherfucker is gone, it's not going to change.
Yeah, it's just like the issue with the GMing in football. There's one good one good commissioner that all commissioners need to learn from, and that is Adam Silver. The one good thing the NBA has, in my opinion.
I don't even know if people would agree with you on that. That dude puts together a terrible all-star game.
Well, it used to be good. To be fair, I haven't watched basketball very much recently, so 5 years ago, Adam Silver. I'll say that.
Okay. Previous versions of Adam Silver.
Yeah. Anyway, not wasting more time on fucking basketball. At least not as long as it's not March Madness. I could dive down that rabbit hole happily. But Corey, we're at an odd number.
Oh, we are. That's right. At number 13, we have the Utah Mammoth. And frankly, I'm shocked that they have really pulled it back. I argue that they could be higher than some of the other Eastern Conference or Western teams that they have been winning, or because they've been winning on a fairly consistent basis, including over really tough opponents like the Stars.
You know, it's interesting. I wrote that they're coasting to this wild card 1 spot in the West. And honestly, it's I don't think they can at this point catch Minnesota or Dallas if by some snowball's chance like we actually get Dallas falling off. But I think if I'm Utah, I'm at 76 points. I'm 14 points behind Minnesota. I would rather just sit here in the wild card 1 rather than try and keep my guys healthy and get whichever fraud of Anaheim or Vegas rather than having to face someone in my own division. So seems like chess, not checkers for the Mammoth. Also, really quickly, they are at like the top of an echelon, but are like 8 points behind the playoff race in the East to qualify. So that there is a divide there against some of these Eastern Conference teams.
Which is so funny. So I guess with that being in mind, they are, I think, probably exactly where they need to be then, with you telling me that.
Yeah, I was surprised. They are like on the same number of points as Ottawa, actually, and in the same number of games, too, no less. Actually, no, they have less points than Ottawa. Wow. I messed that up. Yeah. But moving along at number 12, we have the Detroit Red Wings. I simply put this, and because I don't think they're going to hold on to a playoff spot. Beware the Ides of March. But instead of Julius Caesar, it's the Iser plan.
I don't necessarily agree. I think they are still going to make the playoffs, but I don't think they did enough at the trade deadline for themselves, but who really did besides a few select teams? They are hanging on by a thread, but they have the talent and system to win. I think they still get there, and I could see a playoff series with them going either way at this point.
Fair enough. And this is definitely a factor of the teams that I've ranked above them here that I'm a bit higher on. But I do think ultimately them and the team I have ranked at 10, only one of those teams is going to make the playoffs, in my opinion. I do think we're going to end up getting 4 from the Metro.
I can see that. Speaking of, at number 11, we have the Columbus Blue Jackets, who, you know, I'm glad has mostly managed to keep the foot on the gas, but they're getting blown up by whoever they face in round 1 if they make it.
And that's where I disagree. They have 36 wins, won 3 in a row. I think they have some good young pieces. I think picking up Connor Garland from Vancouver is a sneaky good play for them at the trade deadline. And I'm rooting for them to snatch Detroit's spot, keep the pressure on Pittsburgh. And actually, in fact, with today's results, they jump into the 3rd spot in the Metro. They actually take the Islanders spot and boot the Islanders all the way out of the playoffs, technically, since I think the Islanders also lost today. So it's an interesting one to watch. The Eastern playoff race is heating up.
I didn't even know that. I mean, I knew they were close, but man, poor Islanders, because it'd be fun if Matthew Schaefer obviously made it. Kid's great. And I mean, the Islanders have really picked it up this year. I think they deserve to have a playoff spot, but I mean, they could still make it obviously in the wild card. But again, I'm not convinced, especially, I mean, if they get to play somebody in their own division, yes, I think that there is a better chance that they can maybe take down Pittsburgh. But if they're in wild card 1, if they have to face either Carolina, Buffalo, or Tampa, no shot. Even though I know the history with Tampa there, but I don't believe it for a second.
That is a fair assessment. I do think those Eastern wildcard teams are just bound for first round exits.
Unfortunately.
And speaking of, at number 10, the Boston Bruins. And I really do think only one of Boston or Detroit will make the playoffs. I think the Islanders are better than both of those teams. I personally believe the Blue Jackets are better than both of those teams. But at the time, I was a little bit less sure when it came to Boston of whether or not I put Columbus ahead of them, because Boston is consistently a tough opponent. That is, in Boston, at least, where they can keep the East honest, because, in fact, they have the best home record in the entire Eastern Conference. I looked it up. But they are that ass on the road and will lose in the first round if they're in a wild card spot, because they won't host Game 7. Plain and simple.
Yeah, I guess if you say that, then, I said I disagree that they're consistently tough, but maybe that's because of that road record. But to me, they are very human, and when Jeremy Swayman is off, he is off. But when he's on, he is on. So, fair enough there. Number 9, I think very easy notes here are the New York Islanders.
Yeah, Matthew Schaefer is insane, and this team, I really, really, really believe they're going to make the playoffs. I think Pittsburgh is going to end up potentially in the wild card, but New York and Columbus might take those spots. Who knows? It's going to be an exciting stretch run for those 3 teams.
Maybe so, but Matthew Schaefer for Calder confirmed.
And since I've dropped the hint a couple times, number 8, the Pittsburgh Penguins, doing just enough, but a bit shaky at times, potentially vulnerable to Columbus. And I said, well, that was until Malkin returned from suspension to stomp the Avalanche. I'm sorry, Corey. And now Sid is back too.
Yes, and I mean, I could argue that they could and should be lower, even though they are second. They have an absolutely serious finishing problem. They still cannot hold a league, round out a game, or clutch up in overtime. But at number 7, we have my favorite team in the East, the Montreal Canadiens, Les Habitants.
Oh, this team is so much fun to watch, but they need better goaltending.
I mean, I think some nights they get really great goaltending, but that's the problem. It's only on some nights where it's like you can say the Avalanche on the rare occasion get bad goaltending, where Blackwood or Wedgwood have an off night, but more often than not, they're getting great goaltending, whereas kind of the inverse for the Canadiens. It's not as bad as I think some teams, and even some teams in playoff spots, but other teams of the Atlantic certainly have superior goaltending, which may be a hindrance to them in round 1. This team can score, and their star power can hang with a lot of other teams. That top line is great. But I mean, despite being a little hot and cold, they're doing more than enough to hang in within the Atlantic.
Here's a stat for you. They are tied with Buffalo and Tampa. All 3 teams have 237 goals for, but they only have a plus 12 goal differential compared to plus 53 and plus 37 for those other 2 teams.
So yeah, that tells you a lot.
At number 6, I have the Minnesota Wild. One line, simply put, first round playoff exit loading.
And I mean, they're picking up some seriously unnecessary losses. And I agree that I'm not convinced with them much still. They might go to game 7 versus 5 or 6, depending upon who they get, but just nah. Some people are really high on this team, and I think there is good reason for that, but I think they've lost depth down the middle, especially after the trade for Hughes. And I mean, that's important, as we have seen. So I'm not convinced. But go ahead.
And in Hate on Gary Bettman Part 2, Minnesota is one of only 5 teams with 90 points on the season. They're going to play on the road in Game 7, which is why they're going to exit the playoffs in round 1. Fix the damn system and give us 1 through 8 again. I will keep on campaigning for it against a brick wall. I don't care. It needs to be said. So I'm saying it. Now we can go to number 5.
I admire the tenacity, Dom. But at number 5, we have the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Well, I put this team here. It might be a little high, But again, based on where teams are in the league right now and the point gaps in between them and what we know they're capable of when you have Vasi, I just can't drop them further personally.
And I mean, I agree. Excuse me. Sorry, everybody. They're a lot like the Avalanche, where the Avalanche made themselves such a big cushion that they're still high in everybody's power rankings, even when they're losing games here and there. And I mean, that's, I think, the case with Tampa. The problem is, I can argue that they could be even lower than some other teams because they lost all of their heat since, coming back from the Olympic break, despite the fact that they're still second in the Atlantic and third in the East overall. The Canadiens are just 2 points off, and the Bruins and Red Wings are also right there. They're at risk of losing their spot altogether if they can't pick it back up. And they've gotten a couple wins now coming back, but they are at risk.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about Boston and Detroit. Holy, I completely missed the ball on that one.
Yep.
Well, moving along to number 4. Carolina, the Hurricanes. They're going to be the best team in the Metro, and they will lose to Buffalo or Tampa in the Eastern Conference Final, as we expect every year.
Completely accurate statement. No notes. At number 3, we have the Colorado Avalanche. And yeah, the boys in Burgundy and Blue have been having an up and down go. Since the year turned, they just haven't been able to sustain many positive results, but I'll mostly blame that on more bad injury luck than at the start of the year, but help is on the way, and 3 of the 4 injured players are on this 4-game road trip. I still think they can win it all.
They certainly can win it all. I still have them picked to win it all. I can't wait till we get to make brackets again. That was fun last year. I hope all of you join us again this year. But I'm sorry, Avalanche fans. My original comment is that this was more about Buffalo than anything. And then the Stars just won't stop getting points, and that's frustrating. And I mean, man, this Colorado team just needs to learn how to play without Landeskog, man. Like you said that to me, Corey, and nothing rang more true than that this team is good, but they just can't seem to get wins when he's out, and it doesn't make sense.
Well, the good news is Landeskog should be back for their game tomorrow. So we're in better shape going forward, and hopefully they can really rebound on this road trip here. It's a weird road trip, but I got plenty more to say about it upcoming. So I'll save my thoughts for later. But who do we got at number 2, Dom?
Well, I've already kind of spoiled the top 2 teams. Oops, my bad. But at number 2, I have the Dallas Stars here. Hate how good this team looks. Hate having to move them past Colorado even more. They are the biggest defensive core in the league, and it is scary watching that. Holy, that game last night was intense watching that.
Yeah, you ever had sex while camping? It's intense.
Oh, God. Oh, my.
Anyway, at number 1, and oh, wait, I did want to say for Dallas, I'd argue they should be number 1 right now. Minus the Mammoth game, they're on a monster point streak in which they nearly set a team record. Colorado beat them in the head-to-head in Dallas, but then Dallas came out and won in Colorado. This team simply doesn't lose. It's very annoying. But anyway, at number 1, we have the Buffalo Sabres. And Dom, you had a pretty good line here.
Are you not entertained? And I'm going to justify this. I did just pull up the numbers. The only team with fewer losses since the Olympic break is the Buffalo Sabres. They have only lost to Washington 2-1. I think that was in overtime. No, it was late in regulation. Anyway, they've only lost once since the Olympic break. I think the Stars have lost twice. Ah, my God. These two teams, the Avalanche are going to make it, but these two teams would otherwise be on a collision course. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty fun to see. And it's funny because I nearly forgot about Buffalo. Their run has been immaculate and somehow low key, at least to me. But every time you watch them play, it's such an exciting brand of hockey. Everything seems to be clicking for them at this moment in time. And the remarkable part is they were in last place in the East earlier in this season. I hope they go far.
And now, tonight, they had 4 goals on 9 shots against the Sharks.
Yeah.
And now it's just getting physical and chippy and messy with passes and just everybody. There's a combined shot total of 27 shots in this game. There are more checks than there are shots at this point.
There's check people on the ice? I'm sorry.
Well, I bet there are, yes. There are more hits than there are shots. There, I fixed it. But anyway, thank you everyone for listening to my Lucky Leprechaun Power Rankings. Thank you, Corey, for joining me in this and moving these pieces around with me. I hate that the Stars wear green because I'm convinced that's why they're on a lucky stretch right now. And I hope when the calendar turns to April, it all goes away.
We can only hope, but we're going to keep it rolling here right away so we can keep our clock a-ticking here. And that's Colorado Avalanche. Try to win without Gabe Landeskog challenge. Impossible. The theme this week is talking about games the Avalanche, even in their current state, should win and fail to do so. After a historic start, the Colorado Avalanche are now only 2 points ahead of the Dallas Stars, who refuse to go away, although they do have a game in hand. And it is all the fault of the team failing to step up in moments and in games that matter right now. It was an incredibly frustrating week of hockey that seemed to get off on the right foot but quickly derailed. There's no easy way to sugarcoat it, unfortunately, and my usual positive attitude has been somewhat diminished. But I know that I cannot give up hope, and neither can you, Avs faithful, because help is coming. This team just needs to find a way to hold on just a little bit longer, but they are struggling at doing so exceptionally. But let's start off with what went right this week. The Avalanche had a solid game against a team they have now beat 6 straight times, I believe. The Seattle Kraken. They chased Joey Daccord out of the net, and then they didn't get goalied by Grubauer, who seems to have had the Avs' number ever since the miraculous playoff series. That is the highlight of the Kraken's entire existence. That and booing Cale Makar, who, speaking of, following the Dallas game, is the first defenseman since 1992 to have 3 consecutive 20-goal seasons. Although, with some of the talent coming into the league on the defensive side today, he may not be alone on that list for long. But anyways, this was the Avalanche's first foray into the 11-7 system, meaning they dressed 11 forwards and 7 defensemen. Why would they do that, you may ask? That's because the Avalanche are currently down 4 wingers, 2 of which are in the top 6, and Jared Bednar wanted to give Nick Blankenburg some game action, and rightfully so. But everything about this game felt great. This could easily be a trap game, but everyone was contributing. Scott Wedgwood had an excellent performance as usual. Nick Waugh had his second goal in burgundy and blue in as many games, and on the power play, no less. Nazem Kadri got his first goal since returning to the Avalanche. Nathan MacKinnon had 4 points after the frustration that was the Oilers game. It felt like despite their depleted roster, the Avalanche were ready to take on the week ahead, where the schedule truly did not look all that daunting up until Wednesday's showdown against Dallas. Boy, did they prove me wrong. But before I go further, Dom, any thoughts?
Seattle fans thinking they will win a series against Colorado is just still so funny to me. I stand on business that if Seattle plays Colorado in the first round, they're getting their asses swept.
Very different teams than what we had back in 2023. But I will allow them to think their entitled thoughts. Winnipeg was an interesting game because by all accounts, everything looked correct for the Avalanche. 2 things ended up being the problem. One was they simply got goalied. They shelled Connor Hellebuck, but the Avalanche had been shut out in Winnipeg's building the last 3 times they had played there in the regular season. They certainly had no issue scoring there in the playoffs a couple years back. But he and the Jets defense were up to the challenge. Didn't help that the Jets had gotten blown out 6-3 by the Rangers of all teams the game prior, and it is very typical to see a team lock it down defensively the following game, and even a floundering team like the Jets proved that possibility. But by all accounts, you couldn't be mad at the Avalanche's effort. They did the right things to get the puck on net and Connor Hellebuck on a consistent basis. He had to face 29 shots this game. The Avs have done a great job, minus 1 game exception, as of late, keeping the puck away from their own net, with Blackwood only having to face 17 shots. The Avalanche even broke the shutout streak. The problem? It didn't happen until 1844 of the third period at 6-on-5. The Avalanche were simply unable to score for that stretch of time, and on top of that, they were down by 2? And why was that? Well, the first is due to the fact that Colorado let in their league-leading 12th shorthanded goal, which is far and away the worst in league, which is far and away from the worst in league history, or even the worst in their teams or their own team's history. But this is not the stat you want to be leading the league in. Not to mention that this power play opportunity essentially wasted, but that was the Winnipeg Jets' second of 3 goals. So where did the other 2 come from? Nathan MacKinnon. Yes, fresh off of a 4-point dominating night against the Kraken, Nathan MacKinnon gifted the puck to Mark Scheifele at the top of the Winnipeg zone with an awful no-look back pass. He then turned it up ice and allowed Kyle Connor, an underrated sniper, but Olympian no less, to whip it past Mackenzie Blackwood. Well, being down by 1 isn't insurmountable, even if you're struggling to score, except you let yourselves get down by 2 because you gave up a start-handed goal. Did I mention legally? Then, during the second stage of the 6-on-5, where the Avalanche could have tied it at 2, and I genuinely believe that they could have, Nathan MacKinnon once again gifts the puck to Cole Perfetti, and it wasn't missed, and that's the game. I thought this game, which the Avalanche could have used to extend or keep the lead on Dallas, who won that night along with Minnesota, was going to be the height of my frustrations for the week, but boy, was I wrong.
You did mention that. I'm sorry that you guys now lead the league in shorties.
We've been leading the league in shorties.
Okay. Well, I knew there was like a tie, but the sole possession, that's not ideal. I've said my piece on this. I really hope they fix it in the playoffs and use my solution because I think it's a beautiful one, but I'm biased, so what do I know?
I couldn't say, Dom. Now, let's go into the fun one here. The Avalanche came home to face a Sidney Crosby-less Penguins, a team with Gino Malkin fresh off a suspension, in which he tried to axe murder Rasmus Dahlin. It seemed he was up to those antics again as he took a very early penalty that the Avs failed to capitalize on. He then came out of the box and scored a spinorama backhand goal against the Avs in their Nordiques jerseys. It was then I knew it was going to be a long night. To quote myself and the intense emotions I was feeling in the moment, I texted Dom the following, quote, "No, this is genuinely unacceptable. Unfucking acceptable. You had every opportunity to extend the lead on Dallas against a shit fucking opponent twice. And tonight against a goalie who is shit, and you cannot do fucking shit. Both goalies playing like shit. Defense playing like shit. Making errors you would never make. I am so sick of, well, Gabe Landeskog is not in the lineup, so we don't know how to play. That is not okay. This team is so much better than this, and every team deals with injuries. This team is deep, so why are they acting like they are so fucking crippled?" Closed quote. I actually want to both refute and agree with myself. For one, that is the heat of the moment, Captain Avalanche Corey, and why I always wait until well after a tough game to share my thoughts once rationale has returned. To go by it bit by bit, it was unacceptable. The Avalanche played exceedingly poorly, and I turned the game off before the second period was even over after goal number 5. I didn't need to see any more torture. It was frustrating because Dallas also got blown out by Utah that same night, and so the opportunity to make sure Wednesday's game was not a battle for Western Conference supremacy was in hand. The Avalanche have had a bit of a mixed bag of results against the Pens, but as of recently, the boys in Burgundy are usually the better of the two. Not to mention, I was reminded of the incredible comeback of seasons past at home, where the Avalanche came back down I think it was 4-0 at one point. They came back and won. Not only that, but the Pens have been known to absolutely blow leads this year and then lose it in OT or a shootout. But that being said, the Pens are not a shit team, as I said. They have had a playoff spot nearly all season and have done well to fight to hang on to it. That being said, this is a team I feel the Avalanche are better than on most nights. That and any team can win any given night in the NHL. Everyone is a professional, and that is the nature of sports. But I think even the Vancouver Canucks could have beaten the Avalanche with the way that they played tonight. There are not proper words other than the Avalanche's defense left the goaltenders out to dry, and the goaltenders could not steal a single goal for the Avalanche. Either one. Scott Wedgwood got pulled for the second time in the Quebec Nordiques uniform, and Mackenzie Blackwood frankly didn't fare much better, which tells me the Avs stacked every point into offense that night and none into defense, which made sense as they had 2 goals and nearly 20 shots in period 1. 17, in fact. Then the Avs stopped doing anything because they ended the game with 27 shots. You can do the math. Now, the most important portion of my statement. The Avs are crippled. They are missing key players and contributors both on and off the ice. Missing a clutch guy like Artturi Lehkonen doesn't help. Then missing key depth pieces like Colton and LOC doesn't help, despite the fact that LOC has been injured all year. Having a guy like that on the stretch one run would be key right now. But again, he is on the road trip, so we very much could be seeing Logan O'Connor play his first games of the season. Then, of course, the Avalanche are missing their captain. There is no way at this point to hide the importance of that Gabe Landeskog holds for this team. It could all be some cruel coincidence that they seem to fall whenever he is, or that they seem to fall whenever he is out of the lineup, but I don't believe it. The Avalanche simply are not the same team without him, despite being without him for 3 years, they still do not know how to play without him. The records prove that. The Avalanche are 36-4-7 with him and 8-8-2 without him. However, Arif Dean of Colorado Hockey Now makes an astute observation in which he states, quote, "It's also worth noting that each time Landeskog has missed games, another top skater has been out at the same time. First it was Devon Taves, then Martin Necas, and now it's Lehkonen. Missing the captain hurts, but anytime you're missing 2 of your top 7 or 8 skaters, you're probably going to lose a lot more than you were before," close quote. He is absolutely right. It doesn't, however, make it any less gear grinding watching a team whose play you know is better than what they showed against Pittsburgh. Much better. Not to mention, you're having to rush guys who are unfamiliar with the Avs' system who came in at the trade deadline to adjust much quicker. A lot is stacked against the Avalanche at the moment, but it shouldn't be an excuse.
Yeah, there's a lot stacked against the Avalanche. Even if the excuse is valid, the excuse is not going to help them lift the cup above their heads. It's not going to be out there on the ice carrying it with them. So all we can do is hope that they can keep scoring enough points, play their system the way they can, get their game together. You know it's bad when McKinnon's publicly saying to the media about things they need to do better and not be passing the puck around so much as they were in this game against Pittsburgh. I mean, 7 shots in 2 periods when you're the most potent offense in the league. That is unacceptable. That is one thing I could agree with you on. And I would say is, in fact, shit where your statement started. But, oh, man, this sounds like a tough week. So I don't want to take more from this and add more words than need to be said. So I am just sorry, Avs fans, that for your suffering. Trust me, after years of being at the bottom, I understand your pain, even if it's not the same pain. I feel you, and I'm here for you, and we will all get through this together. And the Avalanche are still going to be a problem for anybody they face in the playoffs.
Hopefully. Now then came the showdown of the week that everyone was looking forward to, the clash of the Western Conference Titans. Colorado versus Dallas. This was a playoff game. My notes looked the same for every period. The game was as tight as it could be, and unlike what my dad said, this game was not boring. It was tense, and you could cut that tension with a dull butter knife. It didn't take much. The entire crowd was on the edge of their seats the whole night, The energy was electric. The teams were trading chances, and defense was a massive point of emphasis for both teams. But the Avalanche actually held the edge here as Dallas only managed to sneak 18 shots on net compared to Colorado's 34 on Jake Ottinger. But everyone was up to the task. However, Colorado also led this game in blocked shots. It was very admirable, at least after the first. It was going to be who made the most mistakes, but no one ever really did. The Avs capitalized on their first power play, which is shockingly effective against Dallas specifically lately. The Stars responded in the second with the flukiest rebound off the post, and then were deadlocked in the third and go to OT for the third time this season. These two teams have squared off. This was a playoff game through and through, and you wish you could have gotten a playoff finish rather than a shootout where the Stars ultimately got the win to close the gap between the two teams further. To me, and I would say this regardless of the result, this game doesn't matter. It does matter in terms of standings, but in terms of an actual measuring stick between these two teams, it doesn't matter because neither club was at full power. The Stars were missing Mikko Rantanen and Rupe Hintz, who thankfully avoided surgery and whatever injury is ailing him. And the Avs are missing the four players we previously mentioned. These two teams face each other one more time in Dallas in a Saturday matinee, and I'll be eager to see the stakes in that one and how it then plays out. Finally, Brent Burns also passed Bobby Orr for 7th most goals all time by a defenseman.
Hey, that's awesome for Burnsy. That is at least a silver lining that makes me happy. I did not know that he actually passed Bobby Orr. I must have missed that while watching.
It did not happen during the Stars game.
Oh, okay. That explains why I missed it. But watching this Stars game, I know I was still messaging you throughout the game, and it did look like a playoff game. The physicality was intense, very different than the top-end talent and flashy offense that we always see from these two teams. Watching, I don't think the Stars had a shot on goal until over 16 minutes into the game.
I did have it.
So that was super impressive. That was super impressive. Like I remember
16:05 was their first shot.
Okay, I was gonna say the number started with a 3 when that finally clicked to 1, and it was like 3 combined shots on goal with a minute to go left in the first period. It was that was wild. Wild to watch. I said it earlier, but Dallas's defense is just freaking big. They are big dudes. Like I think their shortest defenseman is like 6'5" right now. I think so. It's concerning because there is a history. If you go back, there are teams of the 90s won by just being big at times. You know. So I'm concerned that this is the strategy that Dallas is trying to take, and they're clearly finding a way to make it work for them, having picked up like Myers, for example. So I hope at full strength when the Avalanche can use their speed and their skill to their advantage, that they'll be able to retake the advantage the next time they play.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I think if the Avalanche have all of their players, and I mean, that's what it takes to beat Dallas, and I mean that in a respectful way to Dallas, their team, and their fans. It takes everybody to be there in order to really do everything you need to do to beat Dallas, and that's what it's going to take. But I think they can do it. I really do. I truly believe that this team is capable of beating this Dallas Stars team. I think this Colorado Avalanche team is deeper. Yeah, I'm biased about it, obviously, but I do think they have the possibility to beat the Dallas Stars, and I don't see any reason why they couldn't. And it's up to them to make that determination, I think, once playoff rolls around, because there's a high likelihood that they're on a collision course to see each other again. Although it'd be really funny if Dallas somehow lost to Minnesota in the first round, so we'll just wait and see.
Oh, that
either way, these teams will not see each other in the first round. No matter what, they won't. Because even if Colorado drops out of the top spot, then they would just see Minnesota, which we don't want, obviously. But then Dallas would play whoever gets, wild card 2, which we don't want either, because it's most likely to be the Sharks. So that would just suck. So yeah.
The only silver lining would then be that our teams wouldn't be playing against each other, but then we wouldn't be able to watch. But then
that wouldn't be as fun. I want that to happen. That would be fun.
And our track record versus Dallas is no bueno.
No.
We've come close many a time, but not been able to get over the hump. But in any case, I I do agree. I do think this team is better than Dallas when both teams are fully healthy. So just putting out all the hopes and prayers and the good thoughts, and I hope you all are as well. Just sending the vibes and the positivity to your Avalanche so that they heal up, heal well, and come back ready to fight for a championship.
Oh, yeah. But Tom, the Sharks had a much more successful road trip than even I initially expected, but are still facing some adversity in their way. Their advantage, games in hand, and Macklin Celebrini, who genuinely cannot be stopped whenever he is on the ice. But how would the Sharks compare to the teams in the Eastern Conference who seem to be better than nearly everyone in the West except those at the very top? It's time for In the Tank with Dom.
Well, thanks, Corey. The question on the East is interesting. I actually, as you know, put together some numbers on this, and counting the 5-0, now that it's final, loss to Buffalo tonight. They officially have 30 points in 29 games, or a record of 14, 13, and 2. So probably not enough if you extrapolate that out to actually be a playoff team in the East, but someone in the range of, let's say, where maybe Philadelphia is, maybe a slight bit below that. Let's say where Washington is at that level in the East. They have split on the season with Carolina, New Jersey, Pittsburgh, and Washington. So those are some decent teams. And this week, they finished off season sweeps over Boston and Montreal, having also already swept Florida and the Rangers. On the flip side, they also finished out season being swept, I guess, if you want to say. I don't know how best to say that, but with their loss to Ottawa, and then, of course, tonight against Buffalo, those are two teams they've been fully swept by this year, along with Tampa Bay. So against the top teams in the East, if I'm talking Buffalo and Tampa Bay, they're not doing too hot. But the teams just a little bit below that, Boston, Montreal, they're doing well. They've been able to beat these teams. I'm particularly happy about their ability to beat Montreal, because I keep saying it, I keep believing it, but that is going to be the Stanley Cup final in like 5 years or less. So getting that head start and building the confidence, knowing they can beat that team is going to be huge for whenever they finally meet the Canadiens in the playoffs.
And I mean, that's what I think we were kind of talking about, right? Is the Sharks' consistency, is that they can win. It's just the ability to come out, and against top teams as well, but it's the ability to come out every single night and be able to compete at that same level. And that's where they're kind of, I think, stumbling right now, is they need to be able to have everybody be a contributor, which unfortunately is just not the case at this point in time. Although we'll, I think, be looking up in the future and not too far from now. But I mean, we're being so real. Macklin Celebrini is carrying the team. The last I saw, Will Smith was at 45 points when Macklin was at 91. So I mean, it tells you all you need to know.
Yeah, that's 45 to 95 now, actually.
Oh boy.
Also, how about this stat, updating for tonight's game? The one thing consistent about the Sharks is their inability to win without Macklin carrying the team. They are 1-14-2 in games where Macklin Celebrini does not register a point.
And that's not good.
Yeah, 4 points in 17 games is bad. It's very bad. So, we'll just have to just ride on the tails and the wave that is Macklin Celebrini, the 19-year-old sensation. But man, he's so close to getting 100 points. I'm really, really excited about that still. I know we talked about it last week. It would only be the third time in Sharks franchise history to have a single season of 100 points or more. So that's still really exciting. But this was a bit of a high-level overview. I'm going to go through some of the games of this week quickly because I mentioned it. The week started really well. I mean, obviously, last episode I talked about how the first game on the road trip at Buffalo, they did end up losing that game. And again, it's not very surprising. Obviously, they just lost that against Buffalo at home, and it was actually worse tonight. So that is not ideal. You'd like to hope that being in the tank would have helped them. But focusing on the road trip, after that loss at Buffalo, they went into Boston. They won 4-2. They went into Montreal 2 days later. They won 4-2. In Boston, going back, sorry, I'm just knocking those two out back to back because they happen to be the same score and they were separated by just 2 days. And they swept both of them on the season. So it feels like those two games go together very well. But the key points to focus on from this, and it will be linked in the description. William Eklund had a goal of the year candidate. If you haven't seen it, you will now. Click the link. Go watch it on YouTube. It is worth the watch. Oh my God. What was even funnier, if you look it up, is his dad kept trying to replicate the goal for hours, apparently, and released like a shortened video of it. Absolutely hysterical. Corey, if you haven't seen it, I'll have to send that to you.
I have not, but I've seen other people trying to replicate his goal, and I mean, it's one of those things where you can't, because it happens in fast motion. You can't try and then do it, in slow-mo or in replication. It just happens. You can't do it. That's why it's goal of the year candidacy, because you don't just see that. You can't just do that.
Exactly. It was, it's hard for me to even describe, honestly. It's baffling, but in a good way. But this was a good team game for the Sharks. They got outshot. They were playing in Boston. Boston played very well, but Nedeljkovic was the first star of the game, and as he should be, because he made 39 saves on 41 shots faced. Obviously, Eklund had that goal, but you also have Misa, Eklund, and Toffoli, who each notched a goal and an assist on the night. Colin Graff also added in a shorthanded goal. You had a total of 8 different Sharks on the stat sheet, with Macklin, Dmitry Orlov, Alex Winberg, and Sam Dickinson each notching an assist as well. This was a good team performance. The lines were working and gelling. Were they shooting the most? No, but they were able to play good enough defense, withstand when Boston was on offense and playing their best game. Nedeljkovic held firm as the last line of defense, and when they got their chances, they capitalized on it. They weren't overpassing. They weren't overthinking. They were playing their game, laying more hits than Boston did, which I always think is impressive. When thinking of Boston, anyway, I feel like that team used to throw a lot more hits than they do now. Just personal opinion. But I thought this was a great team win to kick off the week.
Did you say Nedeljkovic was firm?
Yeah, he was first star of the game. Yeah, I did.
Where was he firm?
Oh man, it cut out. I just assumed you said first. I heard fur.
No,
so I assumed you said first.
No, I said Nedeljkovic was firm. Firm.
Oh, well, I can neither confirm nor deny if I was firm watching this game. That much I can speak to. I can't speak to Nedeljkovic.
But you said Nedeljkovic was firm. So was he firm or was he not firm?
I don't know. I tried to say first. Why you do this to me?
I didn't even know you misspoke. I thought you were saying like he was firm in net. So then I just wanted to make an innuendo out of it.
I'm sorry. I got confused. Yes, he stood firm. He held firm in net. He didn't bend. He was like, he bent but didn't break type of thing, right? He was the last line of defense, and he was like a great wall. He was not letting things by him. Then I got confused because then I was saying he was first star of the game. So crossed wires all over the place.
Yeah. Well, how about you just keep talking and we'll just ignore that I said that.
Okay, I'll move us along to Montreal, and I'm not sure if you got to watch any of this game.
A little bit. First period, I think.
Yeah, well, this game started awful fashion. Trinashov, his first game called back up in the lineup. I was stoked. We finally get our Val Nichushkin equivalent back in the lineup, called up from the AHL. I was freaking excited. He didn't even make it 30 seconds into the game before taking a brutal shot to the head, tumbling down awkwardly face first. He was unable to stand up or regain his balance on his own, and he appeared to be bleeding from the back of his head as he was helped off the ice. Looks like a cut from his helmet. It does sound like he was okay, or he is okay, and he supposedly did stay with the team for the rest of the road trip, though unconfirmed because he was not drawn back into the lineup at all. So just brutal hit. And but on the flip side, losing him that early into the game meant the Sharks had to adapt and overcome that adversity, rolled with modified lines, being down a forward, especially a big one. Big in size, of course, obviously not experience, but man, that was not the start to this game against Montreal I was hoping for.
No, certainly not. I'm surprised if he's not concussed, obviously. Are we sure that was not the prognosis here?
Well, with the NHL being very private about injuries these days, it's not exactly confirmed. We know he went to the hospital and was released the next day, which seems to be the standard practice here. So it's quite possible that he had a concussion and that's why he hasn't come back into play. But the reporting from those in Sharks media circles is that he is okay.
That can mean even if so many things.
Yeah, it can. So it's not ideal. I really don't see a way he didn't have a concussion. When you get hit in the head and then flop to the ice where your arms are just like flailing between your legs on all fours while you're face down on the ice, and then you can't stand up when you try 3 times. If that's not a concussion, I don't know what is. So,
and you would know.
Yeah, thanks. But yeah, concussions.
Dom's a little accident prone.
Accident prone, yeah. Oh man, I was a rambunctious child, and I love my contact sports for better or worse. Wear your protective equipment, kids. Don't be like me and play rugby where you get none. Yeah, it brutal, ugly to watch. Like you hate to see something like that happen to any player. Very scary. So just knowing he's okay, like not dealing with any nerve damage or paralysis like things, that's enough for me. And over time, he will heal or be able to address the concussion, even if it just takes time with rest. I'm glad the more serious potential side effects or issues have been ruled out, I guess.
But, you said with how the NHL is with injury news, which made it all the more interesting that, just slightly off topic for just a moment here, when they shared the full breakdown of Austin Matthews' injuries, kind of jumping back to the Ratko Gudas discussion, that the NHL just went full on and they were like, here, or at least the Toronto Maple Leafs were like, yep, here's Austin Matthews' full injury breakdown. This is what happened. This is what we're doing. He also did just have successful knee surgery. So just interesting that they were so transparent with that.
Yeah, that is interesting. Maybe it's different organizational policies. Maybe it's up to the player and personal privacy. I think that's something to remember too, is when we're conditioned in sports to think that as fans, we have a right to know what the injuries are specifically, but these are still human beings. And I think I would just put the thought out there that if you had some type of injury, how would you feel about that being national media and everyone in the country who is a fan knowing what is going on with your body? That, I guess, for me, from a perspective, would feel very invasive and into a personal space and into a realm that is nobody's business. If you know I'm injured and I'm not going to play, that's all you need to know. What it is, how I'm doing with it, that's for me and my trainers to know, I would think. So I do have to say I respect that general notion in the NHL, that general approach where they are keeping certain things private, and maybe I don't know, we're not behind the scenes. We are saying this from a fan perspective once again, as always. So I can't say for certain, but maybe it is something where Matthews was like, yeah, you can let him know what's going on. And it is a player decision each time. I would wonder.
Captain Avalanche Corey diagnosed with penile explosive syndrome. I'd want everyone to know. I'd let you all know. Anyway, Sharks. Talk more about the Sharks.
Well, it was another great game from Nedeljkovic. He got 25 saves on 27 face. So playing 2 road games in the span of 3 days. And he made he only allowed 4 goals on 68 shots faced. That's pretty fucking great. Kept Montreal's potent offense and power play at bay. That is other than Mr. Saturday Night himself, Cole Caulfield, who he scored as he always seems to do on a Saturday, but the Sharks as a team did enough to win this game. You had multiple players with 3 points, Macklin with 2 goals and an assist. One of those was an empty netter, thanks to a selfless assist from Colin Graff to Celebrini on the empty netter. I keep saying this, and I'm gonna rant about this when it comes to the Ottawa game here, but you need to keep Colin Graff on the top fucking line. Okay? It works. Keep Macklin, Will Smith, and Colin Graff as a line. Keep Toffoli with Eklund with Misa as a line. It is working. If you want to mix something up and put in, I guess, with your middle 6, fine. You've got more flexibility. You got Wenberg. You got Kurashev you can throw in there on certain nights. You obviously made the trade for Sherwood. You've got Regenda, Gaudette. You can mix these players around a little bit, but your middle 6 is pretty clear. Gaudette and Regenda are normally going to draw in as 4th liners, for example. But when Graff just knows how to play with Celebrini and Smith, and he does it very well, and I don't understand why that isn't being kept stable. If you bring up someone like Chernyshov, fine. Yeah, put him on the top line. I'm cool with that. I still think that's the top line of the future of Chernyshov, Smith, and Macklin together. But Graff is doing a great job. He's great at his positioning and moving without the puck and getting the puck to Macklin. So I really like it when they're playing together.
And it's funny, you're not the only Sharks fan who I've seen complain about Coach Warsawski's mixing of lines.
Oh yeah, that's my summary from the Ottawa game. Honestly, just jumping ahead that to the next game, because this game was so winnable. Yeah, the team did not play their best, but Will Smith should not be riding the bench in the 3rd period. I don't care what he's doing wrong. He's young. Give him the experience and learn to fix it. He should not be riding the bench late in the game. When you're pulling the goalie, him and Tyler Toffoli should not be sitting on the fucking bench. And this is a problem in the game against Ottawa. This was a problem in the game against Edmonton that followed. I don't get it. I don't get it. I really don't get it. And it's not that both of them were sitting in both games, but I do not get it. I do not get it. It's so frustrating. The Sharks got off to a hot start on the stat sheet, but it was a disappointing 2nd and 3rd period performance against the Senators. They got outplayed. They didn't play well. They were also playing Laurent Brossoit in net, who was mediocre at best, starting the 2nd game on the back-to-back because Askarov has remained out with a nagging lower body injury. By the way, I'm blanking on the name. I know I sent it to you, Corey, but the Sharks had to sign an emergency goaltender for the game in Montreal because of Askarov's unexpected inability to play.
Joe Goaltender.
Yeah. But I think summing up the loss to Ottawa, Macklin Celebrini was all of us when he let out his frustration and smashed his stick on the goalpost after the empty netter by Brady Tkachuk.
Smash.
Yeah, and he was chirping from the bench. He was blowing his top and losing his mind a little bit. And I don't blame him. He's a superstar. And you're playing Ottawa. If you beat Boston and beat Montreal, you should be able to beat Ottawa. Not let Fabian Zetterlund, the former Shark, score a couple points against you in the 2nd period. That in the span of just a minute and 5 seconds. Why?
Those ones always hurt extra.
Yeah, Colin Graff gives you the lead. You're up 3-2, and then 3 minutes later, you let Fabian Zetterlund score on the power play because you don't know how to stay out of the box for dumb things. In this case, it was a hooking from Orlov on Fabian Zetterlund. So he just set up the whole thing for himself. And then a minute later, okay, you're no longer in the power play. It's a tie game. Don't be stupid. And then you let them score again. And then, no, even then, you still start off the third period well. Misa ties it up. You're back in a tie game. And then you forget that there's 20 minutes in the third period and only play the first 10. And the last 10 are just dominated by Ottawa. So you don't even, I didn't even feel like there was a chance to come back in this one. It was really, really depressing to watch the Sharks. I think they weren't able to outshoot. They were close with the Senators, but their offense wasn't working. They were still passing too much. They couldn't convert on their power play. Their penalty kill couldn't work either. And for once, they actually got out hit by a team, 30-23. They've been really on top of that stat in most of their games recently, but just out of sync, out of sorts. And then, yeah, when things aren't working, I get it, trying to shuffle up the lines. But when these lines were cooking and working against Boston and Montreal, maybe even if things have gone wrong defensively because you're playing your third string AHL goaltender, that you need to keep your best offensive combinations together, Coach W, Coach Warsaw, Coach Warsofsky, whatever you want to call him. I respect all those different names in shorthand for him. Then just put your best players together. Like, it's not that fucking difficult. If you have any shot at coming back, you're not going to do it by throwing guys who have zero chemistry together right now or haven't played 50 minutes of this game together. You're just going to suddenly randomly shift things up. I get it. You're trying to coach through it, but sometimes you just got to let the players play and take the L on their own and not get overly involved. And I think that just goes for all things coaching.
So basically what I'm getting from your statement is you really enjoyed this game.
I really enjoyed the fact that I missed most of the first period and only got to watch that on the replay and instead got to watch most of the second and third when we sucked ass. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed this game.
I'm sorry, though.
Well, I guess if there's a positive, Luke Medulin had a couple of assists, although he has been shaky at points. He's an RFA who I would like us to extend, but he's not playing like he wants to keep his spot. It's a little concerning. So this was actually a bit of a highlight at moments, but still he was a liability at other points in the game. How about Ferraro? He got a goal and assist in this game, broke his own personal single season record for most goals. Yes, it's a small number. He had only previously scored 5 in a season, but I don't care. I'm happy for Mario Ferraro. He's having a career year in a contract year when we decided to keep him. So I'm happy to see him succeed, especially when the Sharks benefit because of it. So congrats, Mario, for breaking your own personal record. You now have 6 goals as your season high.
Hey, man, not everybody is Kale McCarr. 5 goals for a D-man is pretty respectable.
Yeah. I mean, there's still plenty of games left to play, so I'm hoping he can keep it up. But again, just trying to keep in the tank moving here. Tuesday night of, St. Patrick's Day. I was wearing all my green. I'm like, teal is a shade of green. We got to have this luck on our side, right? Oh, and Dreisaitl's now on IR. Perfect timing to be going into Edmonton and play them. Or at least so I thought. Because this was another winnable game that went by the wayside. And this one is more critical than those ones against the East. The ones against the East, you kind of went in expecting to lose. And splitting, going 500, going 2-2 on that Eastern road trip swing when you're playing 4 straight road games, I'll take it. And then you just got to win this one in Edmonton when Edmonton is flopping and doesn't have their second best player. Unacceptable loss. Unacceptable. It's a 4-point swing considering the state of the playoff race. You had all these games in hand on Edmonton, and you'd be able with this one to basically all but put yourself in the advantage position. I think certain sites had them at the Sharks at a 55% chance to make the playoffs. And I was like, seriously, if you win this game, it goes from a 40% chance to a 55% chance to make the playoffs. Win this fucking game. But no. Rough first period. Oilers take a 3-1 lead into first intermission, although Dmitry Orlov was phenomenal in this game, both on defense and on offense. He opened the scoring. Sharks had a much better second period, actually, though. They struggle in the second period, but they played really well, I thought, in just making it a battle, mucking it up a bit, and until they could get their game going. We're able to get goals from Regenda and Kiefer Sherwood to tie up the game after 2. And again, it has been said by other analysts and has been said by plenty of Sharks fans, but the Sharks line deployments were certainly odd, to say the least. And so I do think Coach Warsofsky has to shoulder some of the blame for this loss, because you're just moving everybody who possibly could, throwing them on Macklin's wing in a tie game. Why are we doing that? You're taking Misa, you're taking your 2C and throwing him on Macklin's wing because you're pissed off and making Will Smith ride the bench. No. I don't care what Will Smith did wrong. He's not going to learn from his mistake. He's not going to do better if he's not out there playing. Okay? Timeout doesn't work in the NHL. Experience does. It's that simple. I get it. He's like, he looks like a child. It was his 21st freaking birthday, for crying out loud, on St. Patrick's Day. Leave him in the fucking game with his boy on the top line. Zero excuse. Nothing anybody can say will convince me otherwise. He's in minutes per game is just unacceptable to me. Unacceptable. And like I said before, I don't understand why exactly, because the line combos were working so well in those wins over Boston and Montreal. And also, just as a side note, there was criticism, not so much from me on this one, but Nick Leddy was put back into the lineup for the first time in a while over Shakir Mukhamadullin, which I don't think Leddy's going to be with the team. I don't think he's necessarily the answer. And if we want to know what Shakir Mukhamadullin has, if we want him to be extended, we got to let him play. I do think while this move had scrutiny that came with it, I thought Leddy actually played a solid game, so I'm not particularly upset about it, but I do want to report that I've heard in Shark circles. But it's interesting to see, because I'll talk about it in a minute. We did get one extension signed for one restricted free agent, the Sharks did, but I think Colin Graff has to be one of those ones that's right at the top of the list that we need to get extended. And I really hope GM Mike Greer, GMMG, man, come on, get this done. I keep saying it. I want him on the top line. Until Chernyshov is here full time, Graf is on the top line. And even after that, he is a key role player. He is your best penalty killer. He plays with a lot of grit. Pay the man. Give him a 3-year extension. He's a restricted free agent. He's young. Yes, you're going to have to pay him more than you're paying him now, but you got the cap room. He's not going to break the bank. So need to get him signed. I was really thinking we would be getting Mukhamadullin signed. Now there's some unease with that. I thought he's one of those more experienced but still young defensemen. So anyway, Corey, I've been rambling for a while, so I'm gonna pause and drink some water, and I would like you to please offer any thoughts you have on any of the nonsense I've just spewed.
Only that I thought you guys already extended Shakir Mukhamadullin by a year. I thought you guys got him for a year extension. Am I mistaken in that?
I think we did that last offseason to extend him to this season, but now I'm double checking Puckpedia because I thought Orlov was the only defenseman under contract for next year.
Because I swear that was this year.
No, currently looking at Puckpedia, he's currently on a $1 million AAV salary, a restricted free agent for 2026-27 with Sam Dickinson and Orlov as the only NHL defenseman currently under contract for next year.
Yeah, 2026-27. We're in 2025-26.
Which means this upcoming offseason, he's a restricted free agent.
Fuck Puckpedia. It doesn't know more than me.
I know you love Puckpedia. But I love Puckpedia too.
Anyway, Dom, Any other final thoughts here in the tank? You did say you got somebody else locked up, unless I somehow missed you saying who it was.
No, you heard me correctly. And sorry, I know I haven't given you much chance to interject since I've just been trying to run through as quick as possible.
No, all good. I don't have much else to add. Similar to you, I don't want to stack on top of the pain that you're already experiencing.
Well, thank you. So I'm gonna take this from an injury perspective first because Askey is still out with a lower body injury day to day. Toffoli is out with an undisclosed injury, so perhaps that's why he saw some slight reduction in minutes. Chernyshov is out with what is confirmed as a concussion. I'm now seeing here on Puckpedia. It had not shown that previously, so that has been confirmed. And then Ty Dellandrea, who's been on IR with a lower body injury for a while, he is nearing return and he's been moved to day. And he is the now former restricted free agent who the Sharks have extended for 2 years at a modest pay increase to a $1.625 million average annual value contract. And I love this signing. I love this deal. I liked when we brought Dellandrea in the first place. He plays with a lot of heart, a lot of grit, key to our bottom six. He's only making $300,000 more for next season than the next 2 years. So again, not breaking the bank, but he's a glue guy. He's been injured at times, but he's hardworking, a great locker room leader, and a key bottom six forward to when the Sharks are succeeding. So really, really happy to see him locked up for the next couple of years to be part of this team moving forward.
You definitely need those depth guys, those glue guys. I always think of Logan O'Connor and Parker Kelly. They are the peak examples of that. So even if they're not scoring a lot of points, it's important to have guys like that.
Yeah, definitely. And that brings me into my 3 Sharks of the week. At number 3, one of those guys, I keep saying his name, but I'm going to put Colin Graff. The number 2 Shark of the week, I am going with Mario Ferraro. Points in 3 out of the 4, well, now 5 games, but 4 points in total across 4 games. That's pretty great for Mario. And at number 1, I'm putting Eki. William Eklund is the Shark of the week because he had the highlight reel moment of the week. Yeah, of course, Macklin Celebrini was the true superstar, but it'd be boring if I put him in here every single time. Additional honorable mentions to Misa, Toffoli, and Orlov as well from the defense. There were a lot of good Sharks in the early first half of the week. And shout out to Alex Nedeljkovic. He really played some great games in those first 2 before allowing 10 goals in his last 2.
Aye.
Yeah, he was gonna be a Shark of the week. In fact, Alex Nedeljkovic was gonna be the number 1 Shark of the week until the game against Edmonton, and then just cemented that watching Buffalo tonight.
Well, similar to Dom, my 3 Avalanche players of the week, they had great games and great moments, but they also had really low moments. I think minus my number 1 here. So yeah. Your 3 players are number 3, Nathan McKinnon, that 4-point game against Seattle was great. He had points, I think, in all of the games this week. No, he had one against Dallas as well. So yeah, he's had points in every game this week, even when they lost. So, he's there. Scott Wedgwood looked incredible against Dallas as well. I always love him, and it's debatable if he'll be the starter going into the playoffs. Number 1, Cale Makar, making history. He's just our baby-faced assassin. Now, your fun fact this week is brought to you by Dom from the Tank. I don't know what we got this week, but I'm excited to know. I'm seeing some gold medal mentions, so let's see.
Well, a brief first of all, Wedge Dad. He was incredible in that win against Dallas. I forgot to mention it earlier. He deserved to win that game with how he did in the shootout as well. Sharks fun fact, Macklin Celebrini with 50 points in Sharks all-time single-season record for most points in road games in a single season. So that's just totally a cool random tidbit I saw in the broadcast. But no, the real fun fact this week is about gold medals, like you said, Corey. So not letting myself torn too far away from that. While some of you may already know, because it's been a little while now since the last one I'm going to mention here, your fun fact this week is that the USA now officially holds all 7 international gold medals at the senior level of hockey. So in addition to the Olympic gold taken by each of the U.S. men's and women's national teams, the USA para sled hockey team took their 5th straight gold medal versus Canada to close out the Paralympics. This triple sweep is unprecedented and the first of its kind in Olympics history. But I said all and international gold medals at the senior level. So join me in flashing back just 1 year to 2025 when the USA also took a clean sweep at the World Championships. The men's team took their first World Championship gold in 65 years in a 1-0 win over Switzerland. The women's team won their 11th World Championship medal in a win versus Canada. The USA men's sled hockey team captured their 7th gold, but perhaps, and in my opinion, most significantly, the USA women's sled hockey team took home gold in the first ever Women's World Sled Championship. I really hope this is an event at the next Olympics as well. There's never been a better time in history to be a fan of USA hockey, and no country has ever swept all of these event medals in a 12-month span. It's unprecedented. It's really exciting. And just a nice little way to recap and look back on the Olympics. It's in the past now, but it's not too far ago, and I don't want to forget.
I know. I never want to forget the Olympics, and heck of a shout out to the para sports there. I just learned this year, as I've begun to learn more about sled hockey, that there is no women's sled hockey at the Paralympics, which is weird. That's dumb. So good to hear that, the USA women's sled hockey team is representing well, even at that international level when they get the opportunity, which means, yes, there absolutely should be women's sled hockey in the Olympics. Why is there not? Let's get that fixed. What the hell? So yes.
Yeah, last year was the first ever women's world championship for sled hockey. So it's growing. I think they're finally going to start gaining some interest, and hopefully with 4 years we can get it on the next Olympic slate. So all of us, it takes all of us, all of you listening, look it up, try to find ways to support it. Go out there and support your ladies teams and help them grow the game.
Yes, absolutely. Well, everyone, the clock is counting down to the final horn. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this episode of the Captain Avalanche Fancast. If you have something you want to know about the Avalanche, Sharks, or just hockey in general, reach out to us on our socials or email, and we'll be happy to try and answer it. The best thing you can do if you like what we're doing here is to follow us on whatever platform you're using and to share this podcast everywhere you can with everyone you can. I'm Captain Avalanche Corey.
And I'm Dom from the Tank.
Check out our new episodes every week. Thanks, everyone.